to the amazing
Hello,
Katie.
everybody. Thank you so much, Rich. I feel like Rich is the best. He's like the ultimate hype man, you know. But welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see so many of you here today. You are coming from all over the place, which is so amazing. Connecticut, Tampa, Las Vegas, California, all over. I'm here in New Jersey. And my name is Katie. For those of you I haven't met, I'm a pastry chef. I do baking classes here with my girls, and I'm here pretty much every week, which is so much fun. And today we're doing donuts, baked donuts, not yeast-raised donuts, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. But these are cake donuts. Cake donuts are so easy, so quick. And we're doing them in like little mini muffin, not muffin, mini donut pans today. So they're just super cute, super fun. Great for like a variety of occasions. You can really use them. They're great in the fall. We'll do like a cinnamon sugar donut. They're great in the spring and the summer. You could do really fun, colorful designs. We'll talk about all different glazes and how to get really creative with them as well. So you can really take these in like 1,000 directions. And they're just really quick and easy and fun. So hopefully today will be a good day. But if anyone is baking along, let me know in the chat. I know Mia is usually baking along. I don't know if Mia is here today, but if anyone here is cooking along and you have any questions, or even if you just have questions, even if you're not baking along, feel free to just type them up in the chat and I will answer you, or Rich will call it out, and we'll go from there. And Vancouver, so fun. But Rich, if you want to come down, oh, good. Oh, great. All right, I need my glasses. Shantae is baking along. I put my computer like a little far from me today, so I'm going to do my best. But to show you what I'm working with, so I am using a stand mixer today. To be honest with you, you don't need to use a stand mixer. If you have a handheld mixer for this, that's great. Theoretically, you can even do this by hand if you just have a bowl and a spatula. It's very quick, very easy, very simple. And I'm basically working with pantry staples. So I'm sure Rich is going to share, in case anyone is looking for the recipe, I'm sure he's going to share that in the chat. But I'm essentially just using very basic ingredients. I've got butter, and your butter should be at room temperature for this. We're going to be creaming our butter. You'll notice I am doing a half recipe because this recipe makes 48 donuts. I already baked 24, so we would decorate. And I was like, that's too many donuts to have in the house. So I am, I am having it today. So that's how I've got 4 tablespoons of butter here, but you'll see that your recipe calls for 1 stick. And again, it should be nice and soft. So this way we're going to cream it really easily with our sugar and the batter will be nice and smooth. Sugar, I've got granulated sugar, very basic. An egg, or in my case, I've got half an egg. Some whole milk. If you don't have whole milk, you could use any other kind, whether it's plant-based milk, if you've got oat milk or almond milk, if you've got a little bit of half and half, that would be fine. Anything like that will work well. All-purpose flour. I've got a little bit of baking powder here just to kind of let them rise a little bit in the oven. Some salt, and I am using the salt for a bunch of different things. So there's a lot in here, but I'm only using about a pinch of salt in my batter. Some vanilla bean paste, which is like my favorite thing, but you can flavor these in all different ways, and we'll talk about that as we get going as well. And then I'm going to be splitting my batter into two. So I'm going to have one kind of dozen here of vanilla, and then I'm going to make 1 dozen chocolate. And to do that, I'm just using a little bit of cocoa powder and a little bit of water. And I was reading the recipe today and I realized I think you're missing the quantity on the cocoa powder. It's 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. So in case you're looking for that, it's 1 tablespoon to 1 tablespoon of water. In my half batch, I've got half tablespoon and half tablespoon. And that's pretty much it. And then in terms of glazes, I've actually got like a whole bunch of stuff over there, but the base of our glaze for a simple kind of powdered sugar glaze, I've got powdered sugar and I've got milk. Those are like your two main ingredients here, very simple. How did you measure half an egg? Yeah, it's make sure you whisk your egg first. So you break up the yolk and the white together, and then just pour it into 2 even cups, or if you have a kitchen scale, it'll be about 25 grams for a half an egg. Yeah, so if you do want to make a smaller batch, you can definitely do that. And then save the other half of the egg for like scrambled eggs or anything else that you need. So for my glaze, powdered sugar, a little milk. I do have some food coloring in case you want to color it, but we'll talk about natural ways to color it as well if you prefer. And then of course you've got like fun decorations. So I had some mini chocolate chips. I have some sprinkles. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff over there. So we'll kind of have some fun with the glaze when we get there. But that's pretty much it. These are really, really quick. They bake up in about 8 to 10 minutes. So we are going to bake them in class, but I do have some already cooled as well, just in case. And we're going to get started. Is everybody ready? Are you excited? All right, so I am going to use my stand mixer. And Rich sort of mentioned that you might not be able to hear me when I use my stand mixer. So I am, while I'm using it, I'm not going to talk just to make sure nothing is missed along the way. But luckily for us today, this is like a very, very quick mix. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get my softened butter in. And again, you don't need a stand mixer for this. You can use a handheld mixer in a bowl. That would be fine too. And I'm going to get my sugar in as well. And all we're going to do is kind of just beat this up until it's nice and smooth. We don't want to over cream it. If you over cream to the point where it's like really, really light and fluffy and airy, they're going to rise a little bit too much. We want our donuts to kind of just land nicely in this pan. So all we're doing is really just bringing our butter and sugar together just until they're really nice and smooth. So I'm going to give that a couple of seconds here. All right, so you can see they're nicely combined. I know you don't hear my mixer, but he said you also might not hear me. So just in case, I can experiment if you want. But you'll see that my butter and sugar are really well combined. And it is a little cold here. So, winter time, your butter and sugar are going to take a little bit longer to cream. They probably won't cream quite as nicely. You see it's like holding its shape a little bit here. That's all right. All we're going to do is scrape down. And I'm going to get my egg in. And I find just for emulsification purposes, I do add my egg about a little bit at a time. So if you're working with a whole egg, sometimes I'll just pop the yolk in there first to get it going, and then I'll add the white, or vice versa, or just pour in a little bit at a time. So I'm gonna get my mixer going and just slowly pour in my egg. Perfect. So as soon as we're combined, and this is just like making any sort of cake batter. So if you make butter-based cakes, same deal. We're essentially just making a thick cake batter that's going to go right into our donut pan. Nice and easy. This is our creaming method. I am going to get in my vanilla. Now, if you're looking to, the microphone blacks out background noise like the mixer noise, but it also tries to block out Katie's voice. Yes. So that's why I'm just going to like be very quiet, but we're only using the mixer for a couple minutes today. So that's pretty good. Now, if you do want to flavor these in any other direction, so instead of my vanilla bean paste, I could use vanilla extract, of course, that's an obvious. But you can also use something like citrus zest if you want to add a little bit of like a citrusy flavor. You could add spices, like if it was the fall and I wanted to do like a pumpkin spice, you can definitely do that. It would be so fun. You could do cardamom. You could add, once we finish our batter, you could do mix-ins like mini chocolate chips, little blueberries, raisins. You could just have so much fun. Little diced apples, anything that you feel you could definitely flavor this. So if anybody has any specific ideas, definitely feel free to call them out. Karen, I love that, the apple cider. You could even reduce the apple cider and use some of that in the place of some of your liquid, like your milk. To kind of add that flavor. Whenever you're adding a liquid in a larger quantity, just be careful that you're not thinning out your batter accidentally. So something even like pumpkin puree, apple cider, things like that, make sure you're sort of substituting some of your liquid in that case, just to kind of make sure you keep that ratio, accurate. But I'm going to lob in a little bit of my vanilla. I always measure my vanilla by heart. And once that's in, I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. So I've got flour. I've got whole milk. Get this all in there. And at this point, if your oven isn't already preheated, go ahead and preheat it to 375. Baking powder, a little bit of salt, and my milk. And I'm just going to add a little bit of my milk, get it mixed in first, and then I'll add in the rest. This way we'll get a nice smooth mix. Woo. Spilled some. All right, but that was it. Look how fast and easy that is. I lost a tiny bit of milk, but that should be fine. So nice smooth batter. You'll notice I didn't overwork it. So like you see, I've got a little bit running around my bowl. That's okay. We're going to take care of that with our spatula. The longer you work, and we've talked about this before in other classes, once your dry ingredients go into the mix, the more you beat that batter, the more gluten develops and kind of the more rubbery your baked goods become. So if we want a really nice, light, tender donut, I just want to mix until combined, not overdo it, and then we'll be good to go. So you see, it's a very small amount of batter, but actually you're going to be surprised at how many donuts this makes. It makes 48, truly. And they are, of course, mini donuts, but it does make quite a lot. So I've got a piping bag here. This is optional, but it does help to kind of portion the batter into the donut pans. And you see I've got my little mini donut pans here, which are so cute. This is like the Celebrate It little mini donut pan. They're so tiny. Want light and fluffy, mix until combined, don't overdo it. Exactly. Yes, thank you, Rich. That's exactly right. So I'm going to take half my batter out first for my vanilla. And then we're going to turn the rest into chocolate very easily just by using a little bit of cocoa powder. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball. You could weigh this as well, or you can portion it into 2 even bowls if you want to be really, really accurate. I think I'm about half. And all I'm going to do is trim a small hole in my bag when I'm ready to portion this out. Now for the rest of it, I'm going to add my cocoa powder. And we talked about the ratio between dry and wet. So you notice I'm adding dry, right? I'm adding my cocoa powder. Now I'm going to add water to balance that out. This could also be coffee. It could be any other liquid that you like. But essentially, we're just trying to keep that ratio of dry to wet in our batter really even. And so that's why I'm adding that liquid to balance. So all I'm going to do is I could beat this in my mixer, or I could just by hand, just kind of mix it in nice and even. Just give it a little quick stir. And we've got chocolate batter just like that. Good to go. Chocolate. So cool. I know. And it's fun. You could even like swirl them together. You could do some chocolate vanilla swirl. Have a lot of fun with these. Now, because these are kind of hard to grab in the oven, I do like to just put them on a baking sheet. That's optional, but it does just make them easier to kind of move around. And we are going to give them a quick spray as well, just to make sure they don't stick. So just standard spray. It doesn't have to be a baking spray. A quick, and we're ready. So small hole, about a ½ inch or so. Just going to lop them off. Always get rid of your little plastic guys. I feel like they end up in all sorts of places. And I'm just going to push this down, and I'm just going to make a ring. It's going to fill about halfway up. Just around. And you could always go back and add a little bit more. Each half should make about 12 donuts. So if you get to the end and you're like, oh, I have a little bit extra, you could always double back a little bit. Mm. Perfect. All right, now for the rest, for my chocolate, I'm going to do the same thing. So let me grab one more bag here. You could use the same bag, really, especially if you're using a fabric bag. You kind of push any leftover vanilla out of there. But just to keep it really clean, I'm just going to swap bags. All right. The same deal. Can they be shaped without the pan? So it's tricky. So this is a cake batter. So it is going to kind of just bake into the mold. So unfortunately, like if I were to pipe this right on the baking sheet, they would spread and kind of flatten out. You kind of almost imagine like a whoopie pie kind of idea. Oh no, you moved and gave yours away. Oh no, get more. They're super inexpensive and totally fun. And even if you only have one, you could just kind of bake a batch, pop them out of the pan, let it cool for a second, bake another batch. But for a batter like this, yeah, I would say without a mold like this, I would go for more of a yeasted donut. All right. And you see they're like nice and chocolatey. So this is going to go in 375 degrees, about 8 to 10 minutes. They're super quick, just until they bounce back to the touch, or you can use a little toothpick and check. They're super fast. So I'm going to pop them right in the oven. And in the meantime, we're going to get started on our glazes. All right. So a couple of options when it comes to glazes. And I feel like when it comes to donuts, the glaze is like really the most important part, arguably, I would say. And so today we're going to do a couple of different options. We're going to do kind of a standard glaze or powdered sugar glaze. We'll also do a chocolate ganache glaze, just so you get sort of a chocolate option. And then I have some fun stuff too. Like I have cinnamon sugar. I have a little powdered sugar, so we'll do some of those. And this is really fun because I think, once you pop out those little baked mini donuts, which are so fast and easy, you can kind of get the whole family involved in the process of making all of these different glazes and just having like a lot of fun with it. So that's really nice. Can I use a mini donut maker machine like a Dash? I haven't used one of those, to be honest with you. Would regular size donuts bake as quickly? So no, regular size will take longer. So if you have a larger sized donut pan, definitely go until they spring back to the touch. I'll show you what they look like when they're done, but definitely give them additional time if they're larger. They will take a bit longer. All right. So for our first glaze, we could just do a standard. And let's talk about, we talked about kind of liquid to dry ratios before. So the same idea goes here. So for a simple glaze like this, powdered sugar is my base. That's going to give it sweetness. It's also going to help it kind of set up a little bit as it sits with that cornstarch that's naturally in powdered sugar. And then I've got a little bit of milk just to thin it to the right consistency. So if you think about it, you've got wet and you've got dry. We know our dry. But in terms of the wet, you can really swap out your milk for something like lemon juice if you want to do a lemon glaze. You could do espresso or coffee if you want an espresso glaze. You could do fruit puree. Like if I pureed some fresh raspberries, I could add that with my powdered sugar, maybe a splash of milk to make like a really beautiful raspberry glaze. Really, the sky is the limit. So you could turn this into 1,000 different things, but this is your base. So it's a very simple 2-ingredient glaze base. And all I'm going to do is just add enough milk. You can go by the recipe or you can really kind of go by eye. And all I'm doing is kind of getting to the point where it's thick but pourable. And I can adjust it from there as I want to. So I'm just sort of mixing these together. And you do want it to be really nice and thick first. So this way it works out any little lumps that might exist in the powdered sugar. And then you can always thin it a bit. You'll notice I've got a little food coloring here also. If I just want a vanilla glaze, I could add a little bit of vanilla to this. And then I could color it if I want to. I could kind of turn it into anything. But you see this is very thick, but it's smooth, it's pourable. So this is a good glaze already. So we're looking pretty good. So if I want to add a little pink to this or a little vanilla to this, I could. I've got my vanilla bean paste here, so I could add a touch of that just for like a little bit of an aromatic touch. Because again, we only have sugar and milk. It's not exactly, a very flavorful combination. So you do want to add a bit of something. And the beauty of the vanilla bean paste is it does add those little flecks of vanilla bean kind of running through, which is so pretty. So that's really nice also. A little salt, if you like, just to kind of jazz it up. And you see here, I mentioned lemon juice and I mentioned espresso. I do have one with lemon juice and I do have one with espresso. So this one, in the place of milk, I used lemon juice and I added a little bit of yellow coloring just to give it that kind of fun touch. And this is kind of like our adult version here. A little bit of espresso. Same idea, powdered sugar, milk. And you notice these were covered, and you do want to keep them covered because if they sit at room temperature, they're going to start to develop a skin at some point. So do always keep them covered while you're working with them, or while you're not working with them, more importantly. All right, and our ganache is ready as well. So I'm going to pull. I just heated up some heavy cream in the pot, and you'll find that recipe in your recipe page as well. So I've got heavy cream. I just brought it to a little bit of a simmer. I'm going to add some dark chocolate and just let that sit for about a minute or so. I'm going to start whisking it until it combines. And as soon as it's nice and smooth, and I might have to heat it briefly just to kind of get it all the way there. But at the end, all we're going to add is a little bit of any sort of neutral oil, like a vegetable oil, a canola oil. And that's going to give us that nice sheen. It's going to get us to the right consistency for glazing. And just like a super quick and easy. You see how it's kind of changing to chocolate very quickly. Look at that. So yummy. Now for the ganache, in the place of some of the heavy cream, if you want to do kind of an adult version, you could add a splash of bourbon to that. You could add a little rum to that. Oh, that's so funny. Someone just said pina colada. Pina colada flavor. Oh yeah, absolutely. So depending on what you want to do, what direction you want to go, I would say if you're doing a simple glaze, you could add pineapple juice to your glaze. You can garnish with some toasted coconut. Yeah, you could definitely do Kahlua. For the pina colada, you can add a splash of rum to your glaze in the place of some of that juice. That would be so fun. All right, so my oil is going in just to thin it a little bit. Make sure to whisk that in until it's nice and smooth. And we are good to go. So I'm going to see, I don't want it to cool down too much. I want it to stay pretty warm, but at some point I'm going to transfer it to one of these so we're good to glaze. Is it okay if the cream forms a skin or have I cooked it too hot? I would say if your cream has a skin, just strain it just in case before you whisk in your chocolate. If you lose a little bit of volume on it, oh, I added way too much pink. If you lose a little volume on your glaze, I would definitely add a splash more cream just to balance. That's all right. There we go. I was looking for like a pastel. I could use a bit more. So I'm adding a little pink just for fun, just for like a nice variety. It's cute. I feel like my yellow is very yellow. And can you use coconut milk? Yes, definitely. You can. You can even add like a little coconut cream if you want. There we go. All right, so let me pull out, while those donuts are baking, let me pull out the ones that I already baked. So we could start with those. And you can see how cute they come out. They're just these cute little tiny donuts. So sweet. And we'll talk about, I'll show you when they're ready. You don't want to over bake them. You really want them to stay nice and moist. So you can see these are really light in color, but they're baked all the way through, but that's going to keep them as moist as possible. You can see they're leaving that little bit of residue at the bottom. That's good. That means like they've got some good, it's like a nice sticky bottom. They're nice and moist. I've got my chocolate, I've got my vanilla. Perfect. All right, so let's do some fun stuff. So we'll start with chocolate. I feel like that's a good place to start. So I'm going to transfer this into here. Got my nice chocolate ganache. So depending on your comfort, you can use gloves for this. I feel like gloves are always a good idea. And as we glaze, you can really put them on the same, you see I transferred them once I unmolded them from the pan just onto a baking sheet with like a little bit of parchment, just to keep it really nice and easy. And now when you're glazing, you want to dunk in, but not too far, just enough. Kind of smoosh them in and out a little bit. Turn it right over. You get this cute little glazed donut. It's so yummy. And while they're wet, you want to go in and add any garnishes. So like I have little mini chocolate chips. You could do a little bit of like flaky sea salt if you want to. If you could see that. But they're so cute. They're so fun. So I'm going to do a couple more of those. Because chocolate and chocolate are so good together. And then we'll do some of the espresso. You could garnish with chopped nuts. We mentioned toasted coconut would be a really good one. I'll do one more of these. And especially if you're doing any sort of like kids party or something like that, you can really match the colors with the occasion, which is kind of fun. See if you have the themed party, you can kind of match. Gold dragées would be really pretty on these. And so here I have my espresso. Ooh, a salted caramel. So I would do, if I was doing a salted caramel glaze, and caramel is funny because I would say if you're making a homemade caramel, your first option would be to kind of make the caramel the same way we made a homemade ganache and then thin it out a little bit. Watch out, Dunkin' Donuts. You could thin out that caramel with a little bit more heavy cream. Or look for a specific recipe. Or if you're looking for a shortcut, you can buy a pre-made caramel, make a base glaze with your powdered sugar and milk, just like we did. Add a little bit of the caramel to taste. Adjust the consistency as you like with more powdered sugar or more milk. That would be so fun. Got my espresso. So cute. But you could see how you could really have a lot of fun with these. Even a nice garnish would be like some candied lemon peel if you do some lemon or some key lime with some crushed graham crackers. Now, if you get like a little bit of it, if it sticks in the middle, you could take a toothpick and just pop it from the bottom. So this way it's all going to come through. Or a small paring knife, just to make sure your glaze creates a hole in the center. And I smell the donuts. Let me check. They're done. Let me pull those out. Hold on 1 second. So fast. So you see these, so if I just touch them, you see how they kind of spring back to the touch. They're nice and firm, but they're still moist. You could also take a toothpick and just check that it comes out clean. But that's it. We're going to let these rest in the pan for a couple minutes and then just flip them out. If any get stuck along the way, a small knife or a small offset spatula or even a spoon, and just kind of work your way around the edge, and they should come out really nice and clean. All right. So we did some glazes. Let's do something fun. Let's do like some lemon, and then we'll get into the cinnamon sugar and the powdered sugar. So always give your glaze like a little bit of a stir once in a while, just to make sure. You see I'm letting it like drip off a little bit. Just gonna pop my middle. Mm. These are really fun with like the confetti. Now, depending on your glaze, if it comes out too thin, let's say you added too much milk or too much liquid, it's just gonna kind of become a little bit translucent on top of your donuts. You can always adjust the consistency by adding a bit more powdered sugar if you need to. That's an easy fix. Now, for something like cinnamon sugar, once your donuts are cool, they aren't going to stick so well. So just a little bit of melted butter. So I've got just a touch of melted butter. Give it a brush all over. I know, as if like donuts couldn't get any better. Brush them with butter. And then just write in your cinnamon sugar, and you get a really nice cinnamon sugar coating, which is so fun. I feel like those are my favorite. I love a little cinnamon sugar donut. Especially we talked about like apple cider before. Oh man, forget it. So fun. Now powdered sugar sticks even if they're not warm. So just powdered sugar, pop it in, move it around, give it a little shake, shake. A nice little powdered sugar donut. Those remind me of like those little end mints. But you could really have so much fun with these. What do you guys think? Any other fun flavor ideas you're thinking about? Rich, are you going to make these?
I think
You
I'm going
can't-
to give them a try.
you should. They're so fast. They're such a good snack. And storage wise, so obviously you could bake these fresh and serve them on the day, but you can also make them ahead and freeze them. And if they're in a good airtight container in the freezer, they'll stay for about a couple of months. And you could just bring them home. Bring them home. Bring them to room temperature when you're ready to serve, and they'll be, fresh as if you had just made them. So they're super fun. Aw, thanks. Is the consistency of the baked dough like cake? It is. Yeah. So let me show you. Which one will I bite into? This one. So you could see. I open this up. So it's just like a nice cake. It's sturdy enough that it holds its shape, but it's very much like a very light and fluffy donut. Just very tender and very lovely and much lighter than a fried donut. It's just like a nice fluffy consistency all the way through. Mm. Yeah, and I love that Mia with peppermint. I would do a peppermint ganache, a little bit of like a peppermint extract, or you could do a straight peppermint glaze with a little bit of peppermint extract, add a touch of green to it. That would be fun too. Oh yeah, with a nice cup of coffee, definitely. It's so fun. You could also take some of your glaze and you could do like a little drizzle. If you're looking for maybe not full coverage, you can also just drizzle it over. Do something like that. Oh yeah, crushed peppermint candies or like crushed thin mints would be so fun. So fun. I ruined my gloves. So fast, so easy. That was so fast. Oh yeah, maple. Maple would be great too, definitely. A maple glaze. That'd be yum yums. Or like a maple donut with like some kind of, I don't know. So fun. All right, guys. Well, I'll just be here glazing donuts. How long do you let the baked donuts cool before icing? So you do want them to cool to room temperature. If your donuts are too warm when you're icing, you're going to notice the icing is going to start to sort of melt in. So do make sure they're really nice and cool first. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Maple glaze. Bacon bits. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that'd be so good. I love it. So fun. Oh my gosh. And then when you put these on a plate, it's just like such a fun mix. You're so cute. You could let them stand at room temperature until they sit up if you want to. You could just serve them right away. But they're so cute. Scoot over. Also, really good item to bring to work. I feel like everyone at the office would be very happy. That's pretty much it, guys. Mini donuts. So fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm trying to remember what's next week. Rich, do you know what's next week? Oh, it's loaf cakes. Orange with pistachios. I love that. That is so fun. Purpose of the parchment paper on the tray. Yeah, so just for easy cleanup, really. You can kind of imagine, as you're glazing, things get a little bit messy. So the parchment just to kind of clean it up really nice and easily when you're done. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Karen. Oh, the baking pan. Oh, that's just a force of habit. Technically, I guess you do not need the parchment, although once you kind of turn these out, so once I flip these out onto the baking sheet, it does help to have the parchment because this way it kind of gives them just a clean place to land. So that would be the purpose of that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Daisy. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Oh, I'm so glad. Welcome, Lori. Thanks, guys. Happy baking. Thank you.